Part 1. The Message. Jacob West never expected his life to detonate with a single text message. The morning sun spilled through the blinds of their suburban home, casting long shadows across the bedroom. Jacob stirred awake, expecting the smell of coffee or the distant hum of the shower. But there was nothing, no sound, no movement, just the eerie stillness of a house that had once been warm. He reached for his phone. "I'm leaving, Jake. I'm taking the house, the accounts, and starting fresh. Don't try to reach me. This is what I want. I'm with someone else. Goodbye." The words blurred as he read them again and again. He sat upright, blinking, thinking it must be a mistake, some cruel joke. But it wasn't. The room was empty. Her side of the bed was cold. The closet door hung open, her clothes gone. Drawers emptied. Jacob stood slowly, the message still open in his hand as he stumbled through the house. The jewelry box, empty. The laptop, gone. The safe in the office, open. So was the key to their joint account and the backup drive with years of financials. He checked their bank. Zero. His hands trembled. His breath caught in his chest. It wasn't just that she left. She took everything. Part 2. Shattered silence. Jacob didn't cry. Not at first. He sat on the living room floor for what felt like hours, the silence pressing against his ears like cotton. His mind kept replaying the message over and over, as if staring at it long enough would unravel its meaning. "I'm with someone else." His wife, Amanda, had once whispered, "I love you," in the same breath she now used to sever everything. They had been married for 7 years, built a life, shared vacations, laughter, dreams of kids they never got around to having. She decorated their home with care, left notes in his lunchbox, talked about growing old together, and now she was gone. It's not just gone, she had executed her departure, coldly, strategically, like she'd been planning it for months. Jacob finally stood and stumbled to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, but left it untouched. The glass caught a reflection in the window, a man with tired eyes and disbelief carved across his face. He hardly recognized himself. His phone buzzed again. Not Amanda, his mother. He declined the call. He didn't know how to explain that the life he'd proudly shared in holiday photos and cheerful updates had been a lie. When the first tear finally came, it was silent, unshaken by sobs. A quiet release of something heavy. Jacob didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat at his desk, refreshing their joint bank accounts, the mortgage portal, his retirement dashboard. Each login confirmed it. Amanda had erased him. Part 3. Discovery. By the third day, the shock began to wear off, replaced by a strange, simmering clarity. Jacob hadn't eaten, he hadn't showered, but he had begun to think. And what he thought about, more than anything else, was how. How did Amanda drain everything without him knowing? How did she access accounts that were supposed to be secure? How long had she been planning this? He combed through emails, tax returns, shared bills, piecing together a forensic puzzle of betrayal. The more he dug, the more damning it became. 2 months ago, Amanda had convinced him to sign some routine banking forms. She'd smiled as she slid them across the dinner table, casually saying, "It's just a refinancing thing, better interest rate." He hadn't read the fine print. He hadn't asked questions. He trusted her. Those weren't refinancing papers. They were asset transfer forms. Power of attorney. Authorization to move funds. She had forged the rest. Jacob's breath hitched as he opened his laptop and traced Amanda's recent credit card activity. A hotel in Key West, expensive dinners, designer shopping sprees, private yacht charters. His name was still technically on the account, though she'd been quick to change the passwords, and then he saw it. A reservation. 4-2. Under a name he didn't recognize at first, Daniel Cross, the pieces clicked. Daniel had been a colleague of Amanda's for years. He had joined her firm 2 years ago as a new project lead. Amanda had spoken of him with casual praise, said he was ambitious but harmless. Apparently, he wasn't harmless. Now they were together, on a tropical vacation, spending his life's work. Jacob stared blankly at the screen, feeling a bitter laugh rising in his chest. They hadn't just betrayed him, they were celebrating it. Part 4. Planning revenge. Jacob didn't scream. He didn't throw things or curse the walls. Instead, something inside him clicked into place. A quiet, deliberate focus. He was done grieving, done reeling. Now he would build. was, after all, a systems analyst. Strategy was his trade. His planning, execution, optimization, this was what he did. And Amanda, for all her deceit, had underestimated that. Step 1. Documentation. He began compiling a file. Every email, every forged signature, every unauthorized transaction. Hotel receipts, travel itineraries, even the timestamp security footage from their smart doorbell showing Amanda leaving that final morning with bags packed. Step 2. Legal foundation. Jacob consulted with a seasoned attorney, a divorce specialist known for handling high-set splits and messy betrayals. She listened carefully, her eyes narrowing as he laid out the evidence. "You've got something here," she said, tapping the growing file of exhibits. "We can go after the assets, maybe even press criminal charges for the forgery." Jacob nodded. "I want it all back. Every dollar. Every inch of it. But I also want her to feel it." The lawyer smiled coldly. "Then we go beyond the courts." Step 3. The leverage. Amanda's new boyfriend, Daniel Cross, had a reputation in the business community for being sharp and shady. Jacob dug deeper into Daniel's finances and found inconsistencies. Off-the-books income, shell companies, pending lawsuits buried under NDAs. He shared everything with the private investigator he'd quietly hired, a retired cybercrimes agent named Lou, whose calm voice belied a predator's instincts. Within days, Lou had built a dossier on Daniel that was thick enough to destroy him. But Jacob wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. He had to wait, watch, plan the perfect moment, the one where Amanda and Daniel would be at their most arrogant, most comfortable, because that was when it would hurt the most. Part 5. The setup. It was exactly 83 days since Amanda had left him when Jacob made his move. In those weeks, she and Daniel had returned from Key West and were now living together in a condo in Miami, one that Jacob used to own before Amanda transferred the deed behind his back using a forged signature. They were flaunting their happiness online. Social media was filled with filtered photos. Amanda in designer dresses, Daniel sipping champagne on balconies Jacob had paid for. The captions were nauseating. "New beginnings. Only up from here. Surround yourself with real love." But beneath the glittering surface, cracks had begun to form. Amanda's accounts were being quietly frozen, one by one. Thanks to a series of anonymous fraud alerts Jacob's attorney had filed. Paired with documented evidence of Amanda's forgeries, she had used Jacob's signature on 5 legal documents. One was a transfer of retirement funds. Another was a deed adjustment on the condo. Jacob had filed charges. And while the wheels of justice turned, Jacob launched his personal endgame. He had 3 goals: ruined reputation, legal consequences, total financial collapse. First came the leak. Jacob anonymously submitted a packet of Daniel's shady dealings, including screenshots, whistleblower tips, and financial anomalies, to the SEC and the local business journal. Within a week, reporters began poking around Daniel's companies. Then, Jacob made a single post on Reddit under a throwaway account. "My ex-wife stole everything and ran off with a guy whose companies are all smoke and mirrors. Want proof? Look into Crossage Holdings. It's a shell game. Hashtag corporate theft, hashtag white-collar crime." The post went viral. By the time Daniel realized what was happening, one of his largest clients had already pulled out. Within 10 days, he was served with a formal audit request. And Amanda, who had listed herself as a partner in one of Daniel's companies, was suddenly pulled into it. Then came the bombshell. Jacob's lawyer filed a civil suit, naming Amanda and Daniel for fraud, misappropriation of assets, and property theft. The case was strong because Jacob had built it that way. And then, he did something Amanda never expected. He showed up, in court, looking sharper than ever. Part 6. The collapse. The courtroom was hushed as Jacob stepped inside. Amanda looked up from her seat at the plaintiff's table and froze. For the first time in nearly 3 months, she saw the man she had left, only he wasn't the broken, abandoned figure she had expected. He wore a tailored charcoal suit. His eyes were calm, unforgiving, and he had come for justice. She looked nervous now, unsure for the first time. Daniel sat beside her, jaw tight, flipping through documents he clearly didn't understand. The air around them was no longer smug. It was anxious. Jacob's attorney stood and presented the case like a masterful chess match. Every forged signature, every financial manipulation, every deceitful move Amanda had made. Screenshots, recordings, sworn affidavits. Now the judge's expression grew darker with every passing exhibit. And then came the moment Amanda clearly hadn't seen coming. Jacob's lawyer pulled out a printed photo of Amanda and Daniel, poolside in Key West, from a hotel that had been paid for using money transferred after the separation. "Your Honor," she said, "this proves a conspiracy to defraud the plaintiff, using his funds while falsely claiming spousal abandonment. We will also be submitting this as evidence in the parallel criminal case." Amanda's mouth dropped open. "Criminal?" Jacob didn't even blink. Yes, there was a criminal case now. The DA had taken an interest once the bank fraud reached a certain threshold. It was no longer just about a broken marriage. It was about theft. The judge called a recess. Outside, Amanda caught up to Jacob in the hallway. Her face had lost its color. "You really want to destroy me?" Jacob turned slowly. "You did that to yourself, but we loved each other. Once. Can't we talk?" He shook his head. "You sent me a text, Amanda. That was your goodbye." She tried to speak, but he was already walking away. Part 7. Healing. The courtroom battle raged for several more months, but Jacob never wavered. He attended every hearing, every deposition, every mediation session, not out of vengeance anymore, but out of duty to himself. He was no longer a man chasing justice for a broken heart. He was a man reclaiming his story. The media took notice. The case, wealthy husband, scorned by a cheating wife and her shady boyfriend, was catnip for bloggers and local news. But Jacob didn't speak to reporters. He didn't want to be famous. He wanted closure, and slowly he got it. Civil court ruled in Jacob's favor. Amanda was ordered to return a substantial portion of the stolen assets, nearly $600,000. The condo had to be sold, the proceeds split. Her business accounts were audited, and irregularities surfaced there too. Daniel, now under multiple federal investigations, filed for bankruptcy. Most of his companies shuttered overnight. His name had become synonymous with fraud. Amanda's social media presence vanished. Her friends quietly disappeared. And Jacob, he moved on. He kept the house, reclaimed in court, and now fully his. He redesigned the interior, knocking down the wall of the guest room she used to claim as her creative space. He turned it into a sunlit reading room, filled with plants and peace. He started running in the mornings again. He made new friends. Reconnected with his sister, who he'd shut out during the darkest days. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to feel again. One evening, while volunteering at a financial literacy event for underserved teens, he caught his reflection in the glass door as the sun dipped behind the city's skyline. He looked calm, not victorious, not smug, just still. And that, more than anything else, was what he'd fought for. Peace. Part 8. Final Justice. 6 months later, Jacob received a manila envelope in the mail. No return address, just his name printed cleanly across the front. Inside was a letter, handwritten, familiar cursive. Amanda. "Jacob, I don't know what I expected. Maybe an apology would matter now. Maybe it's too late. But I wanted you to know that I see what I did now, really see it. I hurt you, and I took everything we built together. For what? For some version of freedom that turned out to be a lie. Daniel is gone. The money's gone. My name means nothing in my industry anymore. I don't expect sympathy. But I do want you to know one thing. You were never the problem. You were solid. Good. Real. I was chasing something that didn't exist. I hope somehow you found peace. I hope you're doing better than I am. You deserve to be." Jacob folded the letter slowly and set it on the table. He stared at it for a long time, not with anger, not even with sadness, just a quiet understanding. He didn't feel vindicated or victorious. He felt finished. That part of his life, the ache, the betrayal, the war, was over. The next morning, he walked into the firm where he'd just accepted a promotion. His work had soared in recent months, his vision sharper, his resolve stronger. Clients trusted him, employees respected him, and for the first time in years, he felt completely in control of his own life. He passed by a local cafe later that evening and noticed something small but symbolic. A couple holding hands, laughing. It didn't hurt. It didn't stir bitterness. It just was. He walked on. When he returned home, he fed his dog, warmed up leftovers, and sat in the sunroom he'd built with his own hands. He pulled out a new journal, page 1 still blank, and wrote the first sentence. "This is where I begin again." If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Thanks for watching.